To make $100 million, you only need to get 2 new people a day to pay you $100 a month. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. Some of you know that I have a $100 million game plan. That's always been my goal in finance and in wealth. And over the last couple of years, the compounding of our investments has really kicked up a gear. And we're starting to feel the power of compounding now. We're not at $100 million. I'm not worth $100 million, but we're starting to accelerate in that direction, which is a lovely thing because we've been at it for a little bit of time now. But there's really 3 reasons I think you should watch this video. 1, you're going to realize that you're closer to $100 million than what you think. When I show you my case study on how a low ticket membership leads to $100 million while giving you a good lifestyle in the interim, and kind of how achievable that is, you're going to be scratching your head and you're probably going to redo my math to make sure that I'm not talking smack, because it's actually quite fascinating. 2, it's going to give some of you a big kick up the arse to make sure that you're managing your money wisely. And 3, it's just going to be a fun way to stretch your mind, get inspired, and maybe set a new goal for your life, for your finances, for your family, a big goal, a long-term goal, a goal that might span your life and that might just change your life. There's only 2 ways to make $100 million bucks. Outside of marriage and inheritance, there's 2 ways to do it. One of them is to have a big fat exit. And so what you do here is you start a company, scale it big and fat until it's making $10 or $20 million a year in profit, and then you exit it for 5 or 10 times the earnings, and you've got your $100 million. I would argue that this is the lowest probability way to do it and the hardest way. But it's the quickest. And so if you can pull that game off, it's the quickest way to get to 100 million from what I've seen. But it's hard. It's to get a company to make 10 or 20 million dollars a year. That's no small feat. That's very hard. And you see people on social media who have had these big exits, but there's a survivorship bias in that. For every person you see who's done that, there's thousands who have completely failed. And the problem with that strategy, well, one of the problems, there's trade-offs. One of the problems is that in the meantime of getting a company to be that valuable, often what they do is the owner takes a very sensible salary and they live quite poorly, and they often live with a tight pocket butthole the whole time. And it's very, very stressful. You see people, you talk to people who've exited companies for big figures, and sometimes the journey to get there is very, very stressful and often not glitz and glamour until payday. And many times, most times, the payday never comes. So I would argue that that's the lowest probability way to do it, the hardest way to do it, but it's the quickest if you can pull it off. The other way to do it is called the turtle track. It's the slower way to do it, but in my opinion, it's way easier. And to be honest, most of you could do it. Just a cash flowing business that's easy to run and easy to manage and easy to build, and then take a portion of the profits and then invest it automatically, and then do that over a long period of time. Yes, it's slower, but it's a situation where honestly, like the majority of people could do that. If you take the turtle track, you want to build a business that's about $1 to $3 million a year in profit, which, let me clarify, it's no easy thing. I mean, if it were super easy, every idiot would be doing it, but obviously they're not. It's not nothing to build a business that's $1 to $3 million a year. However, you got to understand, in relativity to building a business that's $10, $20 million and hiring staff and taking the risk and all, that's way harder, you understand? So $1 to $3 million is something now, I believe, in this day and age with social media, if you have a message to share, if you're knowledgeable on a topic, you make a little personal brand, $1 to $3 million with no staff is achievable now. And if you just manage that money wisely, invest it monthly, not only are you able to now build a business that cash flows to the degree that you can live pretty nicely, pretty quickly, but also if you manage it well and you invest, I'm going to show you some ideas on that in a second, you invest it, you get to 100 million. You just got to wait a little bit and be a little bit patient. But the benefit is that while you're being patient, while the investments are compounding, you can live well. I've personally chosen the turtle track. It's the slow way to get to 100 million, but I have a great business that I love running and I don't ever intend on selling it. I'll probably be teaching in some way for the rest of my life. And it cash flows well, and I just take a little bit of the profits every month, I invest it. And it's starting to compound now. In the last couple of years, it's really starting to kick up, which is lovely, which is very nice. But like everything in life, there are trade-offs. There are benefits and drawbacks. I'm not suggesting that my way is the best way and the other way. Just know that grass is usually greener on the other side. So if you choose to take the slow track, you're going to see all of your friends building great big companies and exiting them and making $50 million and $100 million. And you're going to be like, fuck, you're going to have FOMO and you're going to think, oh, I'm a dumb fuck. Maybe I should have done it like that. But then sometimes you see people who are doing that and they're very stressed and it's not always working out for them. and having anxiety and being on fucking anxiety medication and running teams and staff and 40 and 50 and 80 staff. And they're stressed puckered butthole the whole time. And they have grass is greener. Oh, I should have done what Lewis is doing. His life looks so easy. He's living modern freedom, which we are. There's trade-offs and there's benefits and drawbacks. What I will say on this, if you have the option to choose one, is that I do actually think for every individual, there is a optimal path for you. Some people are really entrepreneurial and you just have the ability to manage and grow teams and do that. Take the fast track, build a big company and exit it for 10 times earnings if you can. That'd be fantastic. But some of you are more, teachers, personal brands, kind of like what I do here. And it's going to revolve around the personal. It's going to be hard to exit. You're going to do it your whole life anyway. So take the slow track. Now, if I had to put money on this, I would bet that 90 to 95% of you watching this video have a higher probability of getting to $100 million if you take the slow track. And most of you are probably in that boat. All normal careers are in that boat. Dentists, doctors, lawyers, all normal income streams are on that boat. And most personal brand and info offers are in that boat too. You're not building something that is going to be easy to exit. And so what you need to do is cash flow and manage that income very wisely. Slice off a portion and invest it. We're going to talk about that a little bit now. So for the rest of this video, I'm not going to be talking so much about how to build a company up and sell it for $100 million. Rather, I'm going to be talking to the 95% of you who are in a job, career, or business where your focus is cash flowing that and how to invest some of those profits to make $100 million the slow way. The first thing that you need to know is that you must never go negative alpha. So there is a term in investing, it's called alpha. It just means your excess return above the benchmark. Now, for 99.999% of you watching this, the benchmark return for you would just be 8 to 10% per annum if you just literally put some of your money into a low-cost index fund. That is the benchmark. You just buy the market monthly through a low-cost index fund. We call it the timeless investment strategy. We have a few tweaks on the basics that I teach in School of Mastery. But it's 8 to 10% per annum. That's the benchmark. Alpha zero means 8 to 10% per annum. That means you just are at the benchmark investment return. If you're at 2+ alpha, it means that you're doing 10 to 12% per annum, which means you're outperforming the market. And that could be through whatever investment vehicles or antics that you're into. But if you're alpha negative 2, it means you're underperforming the market on average. Now, just so that you know, 99.9% of people underperform the market. Even the people who get the fund right and they get the assets right. Dalbar produce a report every year, and we talk about this in the school. And what they have found pretty well for 30 years is that most people underperform their own fund. Even if you get the perfect fund and you know exactly where to put your money, and maybe that fund does 9% per annum, on average, you're going to underperform that and make 8, 7% per annum. You're going to underperform your own fund. And the reason that people do this is because they have cognitive biases that has them time it wrong, and they have what is called a behavioral drag on their returns. When the market's up, they want to put more in. When the market's down, they want to get scared and take more out. And so they're buying high, selling low on average, and they're fucking up the returns. And whether it's mutual funds or index funds, or whether it's shit coins and moon coins and all this, people do it. Whether, people are not inherently good investors, and most people underperform the market. And so as a little aside to this whole lesson, as a little bit of an investment audit on yourself, what you want to do maybe is go through and look at all the investment decisions that you've made over your life and actually calculate your net annual return. What is it? And if it's not 8 to 10% per annum, which it won't be for the vast majority of people, you would have just been better off just buying the market in an index fund. And so the kicker here is that if you're not making 8 to 10% per annum, you're falling behind. You're in negative alpha. And so my first rule, again, never go negative alpha. One of the most life-changing things that you're ever going to do for your finances is take a portion of your income and force it into an index fund every month. And if you just do that and never look at it, never fuck with it, never horse around with it, you will approximate what the market is returning, 8 to 10%, and you're going to be cooking with gas. Then if you want to get sexy and fancy and horny and you think you can outperform that, you take a very, very small amount and then you do your speculations and then you compare and contrast. And if you can't speculate better than the market, stop doing that. If you can, slowly drip more in, or your small speculative allocation is naturally going to weight the portfolio and get heavier and heavier, so maybe don't even tip more in. If you're really good, it will just keep taking off and doing it itself, but you'll keep your investments intact. Let's put this all together now and talk about how you're going to get to $100 million. Some of you know, if you have been following me for a little while, that I had this made probably 13 years ago, 12 years ago, and it's been in my office through every single house, and it's $100 million. That's always been my liquidity goal, my net worth goal. Reason being is because when you get to 100 million, even if you just draw 4 or 5% out a year, you're doing $4 to $5 million a year in purely passive income, and it will never deplete. Well, it's going to take a long time to deplete, that's for sure. $100 million. And so I have a thing called my $100 million game plan. It's a plan that I built many, many years ago. And when I laid it out, I was mind blown. I was guided through this process actually, but I was mind blown. So I'm going to hopefully maybe do the same for you right now. And I'm going to use a very specific example of a $100 per month subscription product, which in my last video, I said that I believe that's the sweet spot for an info product business and a lot of businesses, to be honest. It's a pricing sweet spot. It's a beautiful thing. Watch that video if you missed it. But let's talk about how to go from a $100 a month subscription product all the way through to making $100 million. Here's what the math looks like. You send 448 people to a landing page every week. 134 of them need to opt in or become a lead, assuming 30% opt-in rate, which is about normal. 13 of those leads will need to purchase a $1,500 product from you, and that's a 10% conversion rate. And when I say $1,500, just so that you understand, that's a $100 a month membership with a 6.6% monthly churn rate. And so on average, they'll stay with you for 15 months. If you can get your churn rate down that low, we talked about that in the last video. Your $1,500 product then, your membership, needs to generate at least 90% profit margins, which is $1,350 per new subscriber for their lifetime. And you can definitely achieve that with a low ticket info product that you run lean through a personal brand. And we're doing 93%, just as a benchmark. 93% of all the revenue that we generate in our School of Mastery is kept in the house. I pay myself and Robin a salary, obviously. But if you add back the salaries, it's 93% actual operational margin. Each week then, we will bring in $20,000 or thereabouts of revenue, which is $18,000 in profit with these numbers. Keep following. And then assume a net blended tax rate of 35% across your tax entities that you'll set up with an accountant. You'll pay $6,500, call it, in taxes, which leaves you with $11,700 after tax per week. So you're going to save $5,899 of that each week for investing, which is 50% of your after-tax income. One thing that I talk about a lot is getting to that magic 50%. If you can save and invest 50% of your after-tax income, your run to financial independence really gets fast. It shrinks rapidly. That's what we've experienced over the last 10 years. Over the last couple of years, as I said before, our investments, which are purely passive, we spend a couple of hours a year investing, and I don't think about it, and it's all automatic. But in the last couple of years, Robin and I have got to the point now where we are pretty well financially independent, as in to say we could stop working, turn off the businesses, turn off social media, which we've kind of done, and live off the passive income if we so wanted to. Now, the caveat here is that we just bought this fucking apartment for $4 million. And so I had to pull some of that liquidity out, which has lowered my investment, passive income, passive returns, and also increased our expenses as well. So we've kind of been kicked out of a little bit of that financial independence that we had in exchange for buying the apartment. Anyway, that was a tangent. But 50%, when you can save and invest 50% of your after-tax income, you're really cooking with gas. And so if you were to do this, that leaves you with $5,999 per week to pay for your ideal lifestyle. That means you can literally blast $6,000 a week on lifestyle. Do you understand? And that means you're paying your taxes, living well, and also saving and investing and having a very tight run to financial independence. And so when you multiply that by 4.34 or thereabouts, that's $25,000 a month. So you can have a $25,000 a month lifestyle, as in that's lifestyle burn. That's how much you're spending on lifestyle. Not making, that's burn. Okay, which is pretty good. These numbers are, in the ballpark, round numbers of ours as well. And so historically, we were at about $20,000 a month of expenditure. But that's creeping up with inflation every year. Now it's a little bit over 30, but roughly speaking, this is how we're doing it. That means then you can save and invest $25,000 a month. $25,000 a month saving, investing, $25,000 a month in lifestyle. Now remember, that's 13 sales a week, which is 2 a day. Remember what I said at the start. If you just got 2 new members a day, you could get to $100 million. Now, I haven't explained the 100 million part. Just follow this so far, but that's 2 new members a day. You guys understand how easy it is? 448 people to a landing page a week. 2 new members a day. You guys can grasp that, I'm sure. That feels touchable. That feels tangible. You could do that. I really feel like most people could do that if they put any sort of concerted effort into building a business. 2 new members a day. That's also a lifestyle of $25,000 a month. And you can achieve that, I don't want to say overnight, that's not true, but relatively quickly. I mean, it doesn't take forever to get there when you're really hustling it. But I want you to pay attention to this number down the bottom. $25,000 a month you're going to save and invest. And here's what that looks like when you plug it in. If you only do 8% per annum return, you're doing $25,000 a month that you're going to put in, and you're going to increase that amount by inflation, about 4% per year in this case. 36 years it'll take you to get to 100 million. 36 years is not crazy. Like, that is feasible. If you're 30 watching this, that is by the age of 66. That feels to me tangible. Well, at least when I plugged the numbers in many, many years ago, before I got this big boy printed, I thought, to be honest, that felt realistic. That felt achievable. 100 million sometimes when you think about that, it's like, oh God, that's a big number. That's a strengthy number. That's an erect number. But getting 2 new members a day, very achievable. And by the way, there's a high probability that if you actually build a product that people want and you're adding value to people's lives every month, that you're going to be cash flowing early, cash flowing soon. So you're living a good lifestyle in the meantime. Remember what I said before? It's like some people who build big companies have a puckered butthole for 10 years before it kicks off. And if they fail, which most do, most don't succeed, they never had that lifestyle in the interim. And so it's like, fuck that shit. I wanted a guaranteed thing, you know, or at least as close to guaranteed as I could possibly fathom. That's what I wanted. And so that's the numbers. And that's why I say 2 members a day into $100 a month subscription product is $100 million. If you just manage the money semi-wisely, you're still living well. $25,000 a month of lifestyle, you're still living nicely. And that's my $100 million game plan. And to be honest, it's coming along. It's really kicking. The compounding is really kicking up now, which is lovely. We love to see it. Now, let's talk about some criticisms and some caveats to this whole strategy. It's like, one is inflation. Now, when I set a $100 million goal, you got to understand, at a 4% inflation rate, the cost of living is doubling every 18 years. So by 36 years, we've had 2 doubles of the cost of living. So when I say 100 million, it's going to be the equivalent of what $25 million is today, is what will be 100 million in 36 years. So, and that's kind of important to know. It's like, it's not as big, going to be as big a number in 36 years as it is today. And so that's also why I do this strategy with my members. We have a whole thing in the School of Mastery. It's called the $100 million game plan. And I recommend that you want to think about that. It's because by the time that you hit the goal, 100 million is not going to be that much anyway. It's like kind of like what 25 is. And that's not crazy. And so you need to be thinking that big. And you need to be having a plan that's that clear to give you a shot at actually moving toward it and getting it. If you're just aiming to be a millionaire now, like I think that's probably 15 years too late. 15 years ago, you might have wanted to be a millionaire. Millionaire is not enough anymore. Just cost of living is going up. So there's the inflation problem. There's the variation in the business. It's well and good crunching numbers on a business, assuming it's going to go perfectly stable for 30, 40 years, but it may or may not. You're going to have volatilities in the business, but that's normal. And then also there's, variation in market return. Just because the market's done X in the past doesn't mean it's going to do X in the future. And that's true too. There's variation, but look, the fact of the matter is you have to set a goal. I think 100 million is a nice round numbered goal. It's inspiring, but as I'm sure you may be able to see, when you actually plan it out, how you're going to get there, it's not crazy. It's not completely obscene. It's achievable. It's doable. And so you have to set a goal. It may as well be 100 million. It's a nice round number, and draw it out, and you have to do a line in the sand. Look, if you did everything I said in this video, by the way, and you only got to 50 or 60 million, would that still be not too bad? I think that would still be decent. I mean, some of you are going to do it and probably get to 200 or 300 million, but you got to choose a goal, do a $100 million game plan, draw it out, plan it out, get crisp, get erect, and then let's get after it. Let's go. So if this is the kind of thing, you find this kind of interesting, this is what we do in School of Mastery. We have a whole class called the $100 Million Game Plan, and we do it every year. We have the timeless investment strategy, we have the personal wealth map and the wealth machine, and everything that you need to put the whole thing together, the tools, the accountability, the lessons, the stats, the data, the support, the one-on-one, everything that you need in school. And so if that's interesting to you, you know what to do. See you in the next video. Thanks, guys.